I'm Scott Lucas. This is today's EA Worldview on Egypt. The military commanders, the Muslim Brotherhood, and a case of U.S. hypocrisy. This past week, an Egyptian court sentenced 529 members of the Muslim Brotherhood to death. Their alleged crime? They had all apparently been involved in the killing of a single police officer last August during protest against the military coup in July 2013. These sentences may not be carried out. They have to be approved by the Grand Mufti. So we don't know if we will see 529 people, 50, or even one person killed. But what it does is set down a marker that the Muslim Brotherhood, which of course was the party behind the Morsi government before it was overthrown in 2013, is no longer legitimate, can no longer be part of any political scene in Egypt. In other words, these are death sentences, not necessarily against the individuals, but death sentences against the Brotherhood for being any type of force in post-Mubarak Egypt. Now, that's part of the story, but what I was interested in this week was the reaction of a man named Frank Wisner. Now, you probably haven't heard of Frank Wisner, but he's one of the most influential Americans involved in Egyptian events since the revolution of 2011. He was the man sent out by President Obama to talk to Egyptian President Mubarak during the revolution. On 2 occasions, he asked Mubarak to give some ground. On 2 occasions, Mubarak rebuffed him. Wisner went home, his mission unaccomplished. That would be left up to the final overthrow of Mubarak by the revolutionaries. But Wisner maintained his interest in Egypt. He's been out there on subsequent occasions to talk, for example, to the Egyptian military, including some of the men who overthrew Mohammed Morsi in July 2013. Now here he was on Al Jazeera saying, you know, these death sentences against the Muslim Brotherhood, well, we don't know if they'll be carried out, but frankly, you're taking this out of context because here's the important thing. Egypt is moving towards stability. That's right. The same man who was sent out by President Obama in February 2011 to try to convince Hosni Mubarak to step aside was now coming on to say that questions of change, questions of reform were not important. What mattered was stability. The coup. The post-coup government. It didn't matter that hundreds of people had died in the protest against that government last summer. It didn't matter that these death sentences had been passed. Egypt was stable. Look, democracy doesn't matter here. Rights don't matter here. What Wisner was saying, whether or not it's shared by all officials in the Obama administration, is we just simply want someone we can call an ally, that we can continue to give military aid to, that we can continue to support because it is a bulwark against those supposed bad guys that might be threatening us somewhere in the Middle East. What Wisner had done was, inadvertently, expose the hypocrisy of the United States. We're not quite sure where Egypt will go, whether in fact it will be stable or unstable, whether, for example, attacks will continue in the Sinai Peninsula, whether protests will continue against the military government. But what we do know is that this is a case of American hypocrisy, that whatever it says about democratic transition, in the end that doesn't matter if we can say that the generals, that their puppet government are stable. I'm Scott Lucas. This is EA's Worldview on Egypt for today.